In the beginning, there was chaos. Ice met fire. Worlds were born. Gods rose from the void and promptly started hitting each other with blunt objects. But long after the old stories were whispered by firelight, they came back, this time on stage, with distortion pedals and double bass drums. This is the saga of gods of metal, where Norse mythology, raw, violent, poetic, collides head-on with the most thunderous sound mankind ever dared create. Heavy metal. Why Norse mythology? Because these tales were never meant to be quiet. Odin didn't lose his eye just so you could forget him between Instagram scrolls. Thor doesn't swing Mjolnir so gently that you mistake him for a Marvel character. And Loki? Well, Loki's probably already in your playlist laughing. Today we dive into the gods, their myths, their madness, and how their eternal stories found a second life in leather jackets and guttural screams. This isn't a history lecture, it's a mythic mixtape, a battle hymn, a visual audiobook where the past is loud and the gods are listening. Odin, the one-eyed god of war, wisdom, and riffs. Odin, the Allfather, chief of the Aesir, god of wisdom, war, death, and extremely questionable decision-making. This is the guy who looked at the well of infinite knowledge and said, "Yeah, I'll trade an eye for that." And just like that, boom, one-eyed god with a PhD in everything. He rides an 8-legged horse, keeps a pair of ravens as his personal surveillance system, and hangs out with the dead in his spare time. Honestly, he's the Norse version of a boss who micromanages the universe, while also writing cryptic poetry and starting wars on weekends. But Odin isn't just a figure of legend, he's metal incarnate. Bands like Amon Amarth have turned him into a war-drenched icon. Sword raised, beard flowing, storm overhead. He's not just the god of the slain, he's the headliner of Valhalla Fest 2025. Front row seats if you die honorably. And it's not just Viking metal that bows to the Allfather, black metal, doom, folk. They've all channeled his hunger for truth, his obsession with fate, and his undeniable vibe of "don't mess with me, I invented runes." Odin is the bridge between brutality and wisdom, between the battlefield and the bookshelf. A philosopher wrapped in chainmail, a mystic with a mean streak. He speaks in riddles. He walks among men in disguise. He plots Ragnarok while sipping mead. And if you're hearing his name whispered over blast beats and down-tuned riffs, congrats. The Allfather's already in your playlist. Thor, Mjolnir, mayhem, and metal. Thor, god of thunder, protector of Asgard. The Norse deity most likely to crush a mountain before breakfast. Wielder of Mjolnir, the hammer that levels giants, blesses weddings, and returns to his hand like a loyal, very aggressive boomerang. He rides into battle on a chariot pulled by 2 goats, which, by the way, he can eat and then resurrect with a flick of his hammer. Thor doesn't meal prep. He reincarnates his dinner. He's the muscle of the Norse pantheon. Not subtle, not diplomatic. But when the frost giants are storming the gates, nobody asks for a committee meeting. They call Thor. And metal? Metal loves Thor. He's basically a walking riff. Power, fury, rhythm, all packed into a god with biceps the size of tree trunks and a temper measured in decibels. Bands like Manowar captured his spirit with every galloping beat and power chord that sounds like a thunderclap. To them, Thor isn't just a myth, he's an anthem, a force of nature dressed in leather and lightning. Over time, Thor evolved in metal just like he did in myth, from the ancient bringer of storms to the modern symbol of defiance. Whether it's the crushing might of doom metal or the triumphant marches of Viking metal, his hammer falls again and again. And beneath the thunder, there's heart. Thor defends the innocent. He fights not for conquest, but for balance, for order, for the sheer joy of hitting evil things very, very hard. So next time you hear a song that makes the sky crack open and your speakers shake, remember, that might not be bass. It might just be Thor, roaring in approval. Loki, shapeshifter, schemer, and screamer. Loki, the shapeshifter, the schemer, the god who will set your house on fire, then help you put it out, just so he can watch it burn again tomorrow. He's the chaos in the order, the glitch in the matrix of the 9 realms. One day he's birthing a horse, the next he's starting Ragnarok. You never really know if Loki's on your side or just keeping you around for his next punchline. But that's the point. Loki represents the unpredictable, the necessary chaos that keeps even the gods on edge. And in the world of metal, especially black and progressive metal, that makes him a legend. Bands like Enslaved dive deep into his complexity, not just the flashy mischief, but the existential crisis behind it, the loneliness, the resentment, the brilliance that cuts both ways. Because Loki isn't just evil. He's clever, he's wounded, he's poetic. The villain you quote more than the hero. He walks between realms, between lies and truth, between blast beats and synth pads. His story isn't about glory. It's about unraveling the threads and weaving something strange and darkly beautiful from the mess. Metal reflects that perfectly. The growls, the dissonance, the weird time signatures. It's music that doesn't ask permission, just like Loki. And when the world burns, when Ragnarok comes, Loki will smile from the shadows, not because he wins, but because he was right all along. The gods are listening. Norse legacy in metal's heartbeat. Time passes, empires fall, pantheons fade into dust, but some stories refuse to die. Norse mythology, carved into stone and passed by word of mouth in smoke-filled halls, has outlived centuries of silence, and then found a new voice screaming through amplifiers. Why? Because these gods are eternal, not in body, but in meaning. They bleed, they doubt, they destroy, they protect, they suffer. They fight fate with clenched fists and sharpened steel. And in a world that often feels like it's spinning out of control, that hits a little too close to home. Heavy metal understood this. From its earliest days, metal wasn't about perfection. It was about struggle, about chaos, about power. And in the myths of Odin, Thor, Loki, and so many others, metal found the perfect mirror. Through Viking metal, black metal, death metal, doom, these ancient tales were reborn, louder, fiercer, hungrier. New generations discovered not just music, but myth. They met gods not as relics, but as fellow rebels, as flawed icons shouting across centuries saying, yeah, it's all burning, but at least we made it loud. And that's the beauty of it. The legacy isn't just in lyrics or album covers. It's in the feeling. The storm in your chest when the guitars kick in, the chill when the vocals roar the name of a god long forgotten by textbooks. The Norse gods may have been buried by time, but in heavy metal, they rise. Again and again. And somewhere, in the roar of the crowd, the scream of a solo, the silence between songs, you just might hear the gods listening,